Welcome back, APCSA students. Okay, these slides are going to be on some more math, lowercase math, and then there's also a capital math, so we'll find out what that means by the end of the video. We've done some basic math already, just normal adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and we already talked about how dividing depends on the operands and that we get truncation if both operands are integers, and we get a decimal value as long as one of the operands is a decimal. So that was in a prior lesson. So we're just going to continue with some more math concepts. So these are some of the vocab words, some of the new vocab words that we'll touch on in this video. We're going to get right into it. So in the previous examples, if we wanted to add something to x and store it back in x, so x is some integer or double variable, some numeric variable, we would have used this notation here. And so what we're seeing here is there's some shortcuts we can use. So whenever we have a variable and we want to add to it, subtract from it, multiply or divide, and then actually change that same variable, meaning we assign a new value to it, we can do that with these shortcut operators. You should know how to read these, and the best way to know how to read these is to use them yourself in programs. So whenever you have a variable and you're going to do one of these operations to it and then also store the value back in the variable, go ahead and try using some of these. In addition, we have an increment and a decrement operator, and so increment is simply the variable name plus plus, and that is the equivalent to saying x equals x plus 1, or now that we have these shortcuts, it could also be equivalent to x plus equal 1. A decrement subtracts 1. So keep these handy and make sure that you filled out your note sheet. If you are following along and the year is 2019 right now, then it's page 6 in your notes, and you can fill out these shortcut operators. So here's some examples. Here's an integer variable named num, and it gets the value of a 5, and then we say num plus plus, and we want to remember that that means that num gets one more. And so usually that one students pick up pretty quickly, and they'll know that at this point when I display num, it's going to say num is 6. For the next example, when it's a double, double value is the variable name. It gets the value 8.2. Then we subtract 1 from value and we store it back in value. So remember, these increments and decrements do change the variable. So then we get value is 7.2 as our output. In the last example, x is an integer variable, it gets the value 5, and then we are saying x times equals 7. The increment and decrement are usually easier to catch on and do in your head. With these, if you're on paper, I highly recommend that you rewrite the statement in its long form next to it, just to keep it straight for yourself. So we want to do x times 7, which would be 35, and then we want to store that value back into this variable x, so then x will become 35. So at this point, when I display x, I will get that x is 35. So those are the shortcut operators. Now we have a new operator altogether called modulus, and this does show up in math concepts, and you can do quite a bit with modulus. In programming, it's really useful for determining whether something is divisible. So if I have a variable and it's going to be changing and I want to know if it's divisible by 3 or by 5, I can use this mod in my program to determine that. It's also good for stripping individual digits off of a number. So if I have the number 123 or 123 and I need to pull the 1 or 2, I need to know what's in the hundreds place, mod can help us get those values from that number. Finally, another example is that if I want to keep values within a given range, so maybe I want to make sure some variable is between 0 and 9, and I'm going to be adding to this variable and I need to make sure it stays in that range, I can use mod to keep things within that range. So what is mod, right? So mod is returning the remainder after a division. So I think what's easiest is to look at some examples for this. So in the previous example, it's good to think ahead of time. So here we'll just work through these together. So when I just say print out 3 mod 6, you can think of it as 3 divided by 6. So 6 goes into 3 0 times, and so that 3 is going to be left over. So in that case, what's going to print here is simply a 3. A good rule of thumb to remember is if this right-hand operand is bigger than this other one, then this is simply your remainder after division. So if I were to say print out 3/6, because these are integers, I'll get 0. So I'm not interested in how many times it goes into it. I'm interested in what's left over when I'm doing mod. In this example, I have integer a and b. A is 7, b is 3, and so I am doing 7 mod 3 here. So 3 goes into 7 2 times. That gets me to 6, and so I'm going to have 1 left over to get to that 7. So this will actually just print out that 1. It's not going to do anything with that 2. I do something else to get that 2. Last example, 6 mod 3. This is the reverse. These two are the reverse of this. So when the bigger one is, or when the first one is bigger, then I can go ahead and do the division. 3 goes into 6. How many times? It goes in 2. And how many are left over? And nothing is left over because it goes in evenly. So first we just want to get comfortable with this mod before we start having applications for it. We want to get comfortable with what will be displayed. So you have some practice problems in your homework that you can work through, and work through them slowly on paper. It's a new operator, and so you want to give yourself time to soak in, and then we'll see applications of it in our program later. Since it is a new operator, the order of operations changes or gets an addition, and so mod actually falls right on this line. When we do multiplication, division, and modulus from left to right, modulus gets included in that, and it makes sense because modulus does include dividing and taking the remainder, and so it's just on that same line. So if the first operator is a modulus and you're on that step in your order of operations, you're going to do that from left to right, and those additions and subtractions will wait, as well as the concatenation. Okay, so the final thing we want to touch on is some other math functions that we can access through Java methods in the math class. So we've done addition, subtraction. We now have this new modulus thing, but if you think of your math classes, all these concepts here are things that you've touched on in math class, maybe except the random and the min-max, but these are functions that we might want to use in a program. So I might want to find the square root of a number. Well, I don't want to write the code to do that. It's pretty complex. So this math class is provided, and we can just use these methods or functions in them. And so what we do is we pass the variable. So this x would be the variable that I want to know the square root of. And I actually put this in my code. And what happens is it takes the x, it goes to the math class, does the square root, sends it back, and so all this right here ends up being the square root of x. So I can use this as a variable, I can print it. It kind of works the same way as a math literal or a variable works, but you want to be thinking about this whole value as the square root of this variable x. So it does all that and that one little piece of code. So these are functions we'll use throughout the year. This is a good page to kind of highlight, just box around and come back to as you need it. I think most of these are self-explanatory, and we will talk about them further in class as we use them. I don't even think we use sine, cosine, tangent this year, but just to know that they're there. I don't usually use the round, so as you go down the list, we use it more or less frequently. So these, I think you will see within the next month. We will definitely be using these throughout the year, and so these are good ones to look at and get a feel for. I just want you to know they're there for now. So some examples for that is I have two integer variables here, value 1 and value 2. And if I ask the math.max function to return the biggest, so math.max returns the largest of these two. So you'll notice it has two things it gets, and it returns the value of the biggest. So when I call this function, it takes the 5 and puts it here. It takes the -3 and puts it here. And it passes it to this function, and then this function passes back whichever one is bigger, and in this case it would be the 5. And so what we'll print is just the 5. So all that kind of happens behind the scenes. So here we have two doubles, 8.2 and 2.3. We pass 8.2 and 2.3 to this math.min function, and we want to resolve functions first. So this function is going to return 2.3, and then I'm going to take that 2.3, add it to num2, which is still 2.3, get 4.6, and store that in num1. So at this point, this variable is going to change. Now, that doesn't really matter because I'm going to print num2, and the whole point of this one is to notice that num2 doesn't change. In this whole process, num2 is used for a couple things, but it never actually changed its value. In order to change a value, you want something like this. And if you're curious at this point, yes, num1 is 4.6 by the time all this code has executed. And the last example, math.pow, is a way to raise a variable to a power. So this is a 15, and this is going to square it. So if I want it cubed, I put a 3 here. If I want it to the 4th power, I put a 4 there. But so this is going to be x squared, and that's just going to be 225. So keep this handy, this chart, and when you're like, oh yeah, I remember how to find the square root, I call this function. And be patient with yourself in using some of these in programs. And make sure you ask your neighbors or me for help as you are learning in that process. So another aspect of the math class is a constant that we can use. So just a reminder that constants are kind of special variables that don't change. And so the convention is to be all uppercase. So in the math class, here's that uppercase variable, we can use math.pi. So I can use this. I can print it out. I can multiply it in a formula. And use it anywhere. So rather than writing in 3.14 times something in your program, you want to be using this because it's more accurate. It's closer to, it has more significant digits of pi than you can probably remember. So finally, just a little blurb about APIs or application programming interfaces. These are available for you to access at any time. You can simply type in Java space API space math, and if you do that, it'll bring up something that looks like this. It looks a little scary, but if you go down to the methods in the math class, so again, you type Java API math, go down to the methods, you'll be able to find these methods, and you'll also see a ton more that are available. And so this is just kind of a plug for giving the API a try. It's kind of an intimidating document, but give it a try. And mostly we use it to see what kind of methods we can call in a class. And so there's tons of Java classes out there, more than I even know, way more than I know. So things that are already available for us to use, like that math class, so that we don't have to rewrite the code. Yeah, you don't need to know these terms, the library classes and packages, but that is how things are grouped in the API. And so in the math case, it is a math class. So you'll be doing Java API math and then go down to the methods and check them out. So that's about it for time. Hopefully you're not too intimidated and you filled out your notes and you keep that as a reference.